Hey guys, so today I want to talk to you about shapes in GenerateBlocks. The shapes feature is actually part of the free version of GenerateBlocks, and it's essentially a set of pre-made patterns that you can utilize on the container block, so you can break up your sections and add some style to the in between them. Now, from a design standpoint, I don't always think they're all that useful or look that great. But from time to time, when used in a subtle way, I think they can be useful. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. I'll show you how to use them, a few things I've learned along the way, and let's dive right in. Okay, so on my demo site here, this is the hero section, and you'll notice that the hero section ends with a diagonal line. This is a shape in GenerateBlocks. Now, if we scroll down a little bit further, you will notice in the background here of these three card boxes is also sort of a wave shape. These are two shapes, a top and a bottom shape divider. Now, personally, I don't necessarily think this looks great. This is really just popped in from the GenerateBlocks library. But we're going to go ahead and take a look at these, show you how you can change them, how it will interact with the sections below them, and how you can tweak some of those settings. And I'll also show you some of the ones that I think are the most useful and aesthetically look the best for design. So let's go ahead and jump in and edit this page. So we'll click on the outer container. Now remember, as a reminder, these shapes are only available on containers. So if you don't see the option, it's possible you're not in a container block. So I've selected my outer container here in the hero section, and if we come down here on the right hand side, just below backgrounds, we'll see shapes. And you will see I do have a shape enabled, as we talked about, this upward diagonal to the right. So we can jump in and hit this little settings icon and show you how this one is set up in particular. So under angles, I've chosen this angle here. The color, so now the color is in fact what the shows below the shape divider, right? So it's always important to remember that when you put this divider, it's going to have something, show something below it. I mean, like it has to have a color, because it's essentially just masking your container to show, to create that shape. And so the color I've chosen is white because that's what matches the section below it when I want it to flow and not appear, unmatched. So if we were to change this to red, you would see there's that mask of the divider in which I put on this section. So if you don't have the same color as the section below it, it just kind of looks funny. Sure, maybe there's a use case where if you do something more subtle like that, you can get away with it. Of course, you can get away with anything. However, just from a design standpoint, I always choose the color that matches the section below. All right, so then location is on bottom. Of course, you can have this angle on the top or the bottom. Because this is my hero section and is at the top of the website, I certainly don't want to add a shape on the top, as that would really interfere with the layout. And now height in pixels. So this is really useful when you don't want to use as dramatic of a shape divider. So in this case, if we said 250 pixels, automatically you'll notice like that becomes a very dramatic angle, far more than we might want. Certainly far more than I've ever used myself. Let's go ahead and close this so you can see it. So it just doesn't really look good. There may be a use case again where this might be interesting for a 2-column layout, where maybe you have a text on the left and maybe an image on the right where it's overlapping the shape divider. It could create something interesting that way. But 99 times out of 100, I'm going with something between 50 and 100 pixels. So we could drop this down to 50 pixels. And again, it just kind of creates that more subtle angle divider that I personally like best. So jumping back in here, the width, so you can actually control this. So if we were to put 200%, it's going to automatically level out a little bit smaller because of you're telling it that you want it to span 2 times the width of this window. So of course the angle, the degrees of that angle automatically becomes much smaller. This is useful if you are controlling widths of a shape divider on mobile. So for example, if we put this back to 100 and we keep that container selected, come down to mobile, we don't necessarily want this to be too steep of a shape divider again. So if we come down to our shape, and you can control the height and the width only on mobile. So the width, a good practice is just go ahead and make this 150%, and it's automatically gonna, level that angle out a little bit for you on mobile, so it looks a little bit better, just to make the desktop and mobile versions a little bit more cohesive. So if we come back into our desktop view, and one last time we'll come to our shape that we have in place and come to the bottom, and we have 2 more options here to play with. This is the flip horizontally. So any type of shape that you choose, you have the capability to flip that horizontally. So traditionally this angle actually goes from top left to bottom right, but I flipped it to go the opposite. And now z-index. So if we X this out and put no z-index on there, automatically the priority of this mask, so to speak, right, on the shape divider is going to go below because of our gradient. So if we were to, for example, if you might run into this and you're using a gradient, I will undo the gradient, and you'll notice it's not an issue anymore because you no longer can see that gradient overlay on top of our shape. But if we enable that gradient back on top, it does cover up our shape divider, so thus making it sort of not even useful. But if you come into the shape divider and go to the z-index, add a 1 to it, it's going to pull that shape divider on top of the gradient for you. So keep that in mind if you run into that, you're using background gradients and shapes at the same time. Just make sure you select the right z-index. Okay, now let's go ahead and scroll down the page a little bit further, and we'll look at this section with the 3 cards that we saw on the front end. And you'll see here it does have the 2 shapes. As I said, there is a top shape and a bottom shape. Again, from a design perspective, I don't personally like this look. I think it's a little bit sloppy. I pulled this in from the GenerateBlocks pattern library, and just using this as an example. So if we said, you know what, I pulled this in, but I really don't like those shapes, we can go ahead and jump in and edit those. So by default, you'll see here GenerateBlocks shapes have 4 different categories. There's waves, angles, curves, and triangles. So under waves, you'll see, various different types of waves, from real long drawn out waves to something with a lot of squiggles, much more variation in it. Angles is really just that one that we already talked about in length. Curves is long swooping angles. You can play with those here as well. And then triangles, which has quite a few more variations. So you have more of an offset triangle, an inset, kind of like the bookmark style arrows, a kind of a chevron triangle, and then you have like inverted chevron, You got some mountain-like shapes. So you can click around and play with these, of course. My advice is don't mix two shapes together. Always be consistent with choosing one type of shape and sticking with that one. So as you can see, the bottom border is what's been changing here. If we come down, the location is the bottom on this one. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose this circular shape. I like how that kind of brings you into the cards together. So it's kind of this half little oval. It's on the bottom. Height is at 140 pixels. Let's say move that to about 100. No, let's go back to 150. Width is 100% is good. We really don't need to flip that because it's already a symmetrical shape. And now if we select our second shape and go back to curves and once again choose the same shape that we chose on the bottom. Location is on top, height is 150, and width 100%. We can undo the flip. We don't necessarily need that again. All right, so let's go ahead and hit update and just come to the front end and check out what that looks like now. All right, so there you can see there's our new shape dividers we edited. I think this is kind of a neat look. It actually almost has a 3D feel to it coming in from the left and right sides. If you added some drop shadows to these cards, I bet it would really pull that effect in even more. Now let's take a look at an example. If say because so far our page has just been white, right? And I kind of had our backgrounds here and the shape dividers have had white. But say this bottom section below that shape divider, the background was, let's say, blue. So of course this is not going to look very good now. The shape divider up against this blue section just looks really poor. So what we need to do is come to the shape divider on the bottom, which was shape number 1, and choose the blue color. So now you'll see that those can transition a little bit more smoothly. The colors match. It actually looks like we have some rounded borders. Yes, we do. Some rounded borders on this section we need to get rid of. Okay. And then we can go ahead and change the color of the headline and change the icon as well. And let's go ahead and just change the text to white so we can complete that section. Okay, so now let's come to the front end, refresh, and now you'll see that transition from the shape divider on the cards down to the color section below it. Looks really good because those colors match. All right, so some of the shape dividers in the options here that I would recommend from a design standpoint, first and foremost is this angle. That's probably the one I've used the most out of any of them. I really don't use shape dividers all that often. I think it's a little bit dated of a look, depending what you choose, especially some of the waves here. It's just not necessarily the look that I usually go for in my website designs. However, the angle one is a really good and friendly one that just creates a little bit of dynamic feel to your design. And I think the triangle as well, kind of the offset triangles and the center triangle, those are kind of secondary ones that I would look at to still maintain a good looking website. So there is a crash course on the shapes feature in GenerateBlocks. I really hope you enjoyed it and found it useful. Be sure to like and subscribe to my channel, and I appreciate the support.